punished and threatened with enormous obligation fees because on ethical... Ja, dat is de eerste zin.
Ah ja, oké, het is goed. Okay.
Dat is de eerste aankondiging.
Ja.
Punished and threatened with enormous obligation fees because on ethical, moral grounds I cannot murder another living creature, or an animal, or a tree. The court in Bruges, Belgium, Europe, sentenced me to grub all trees in my garden who live less than 2 meters from the border of my neighbours. This rule is based on a very old law, Article 35 of the Law Book of First from 7 October 1886, even when no damage or nuisance could be proved, as mentioned literally in the death sentence of the court. And this while according another law which says that trees from 30 years and more may not be rubbed, even when they live less than 2 meters from the border of the neighbor. Several trees are more than 30 or even almost 50 years old. Nevertheless, the court decided that all trees have to be grubbed and judged it not necessary to research the age of the trees. Because of this sentence, I have now no other possibility than grubbing all the trees, because each neighbor may claim a non-compliance penalty from €1,000 since 5 April. Every single day the trees remain living on their old place, where they are rooted already so many years. I've lived here all my life at the house, as the house is the house that my parents built. So I always had a very special relationship with the trees in the garden here, especially since my mother died when I was 4 years old. And the trees compensated generously the affection of mother love I missed. Dus ik kan die laatste zin nog een keer herhalen, maar ik kan niet goed. I've lived here all my life as the house is the house that my parents built. So I always had a very special relationship with the trees in the garden here, especially since my mother died when I was 4 years old, and the trees compensated generously the affection of mother love I missed. The only possibility left to save the lives of the trees, taking into account this sentence from the court, is to replant the trees in the middle of my garden, which is only 6 meters wide, or on another location, which is emotionally a very, very hard decision, but ethically the only moral acceptable possibility regarding the circumstances. This possibility is, however, only possible in case my neighbors give me the permission to respect the necessary time to keep the trees alive. Till today, I didn't receive this permission, because they want the trees as quickly as possible removed out from my garden. Because of this, I replanted the young trees and plants from which it was already possible to replant already in March this year in the middle of my garden. The big trees, however, can't be replanted immediately because perhaps they need a period to prepare the roots before the old trees can be replanted October, November 2014 to give the trees 70% survival chance. In case they would be replanted now, the survival percentage is only between 0 and 10%, so morally unacceptable. With Sing for the Trees on this World Earth Day 2013, I may ask my neighbors if they are willing to respect the trees and me and give me the necessary time to replant the trees. Only by this way we can reach a solution which is the best way in the given circumstances to concede the claim of my neighbors and to concede the right to live for the trees and to raise the funds necessary to replant the trees. Sing for the Trees on this World Earth Day will bring a message of life and love towards all living beings on this beautiful planet Earth and her inhabitants, the trees, the plants, the animals, but also all humans, in particular my neighbors. Killing the trees, I cannot impossibly get over my heart, as my emotional symbiotic connection and harmony with the trees is very, very strong, because they have always given me the love I had to lack from humans since my childhood, as I had to miss my mother when I was already 4 years old, and because of the ethical and moral consciousness which has grown stronger since then every year, whose source, death and destruction can't impossibly harvest life and love. Asking me to kill the trees, who protected me all my life, is exactly the same as asking a child to kill his mother, or a mother to kill her child. Giving the order to someone else to kill the trees is just the same as ranting an assassinator, which means in practice committing just the same crime. Funded on the same ethical ground which is responsible for my ethical consciousness towards my responsibility in this life, what our trees is concerned, I became vegetarian since my 19 years old. I live on this earth because our meat industry is not... dat is slecht vertaald, hè? Because our meat industry is not only responsible for taking the life of and the abuses of millions of innocent animals daily of our consumption animals, but at the same time for the demolition of the natural habitat of numerous animal individuals, and because of this, the extinction of various animal species. Apart from that, this industry is at the same time responsible for 70% of our deforestation worldwide, because this every year the 3 individuals living on a piece of land as great as England, for example, are demolished. Not to speak about the effects on our climate, the fine dust and other polluting material humans spread into the environment, and the alarming influence of rubbing trees on floods and caused by deforestation at the same time. So, more than enough ecological reasons to protect our oxygen suppliers as natural habitat for man and animal. The trees not only possess an aesthetical value as cathedrals from our earth, their instrumental value, to which most of us tend to reduce them more than much too often, their ecological value and emotional therapeutical value, the nutritional and energetic value of their nuts and fruits. But above all other values, every tree possesses a highly characteristic and individual intrinsic value, which every individual tree derives from itself, apart from all other values they might have for us humans, the animals, the plants, and the other trees. It is indeed not because a tree individual manifests itself in another form which differs from the form we manifest ourselves. This would imply this tree as individual form of living, as living being, would have less intrinsic value and right to live like we. Human individuals, like, ja, sorry, mag ik dat een keer aan die laatste zin?
Ja. Dichter komen.
Ja.
Weer scherp staan.
Oké. Mijn zin zijn te kort, dus doe niet.
Te kort?
Bij wijze van spreken, of
Ja. Doe maar.
It is indeed not because a tree individual manifests itself in another form which differs from the form we manifest ourselves. This should imply this tree as individual form of living, as living being, would have less intrinsic value and right to live like we human individuals have this right. Therefore, all trees and each from them apart only deserve our very deep-rooted and persistent respect. To grant this respect, this is only possible when our legislation here in our country and worldwide would be drastically considered according to the current alarming situation of our planet Earth. It is unbelievable that our current law system still can use laws which are completely in contradiction with the dramatic situation of our Earth, of our Mother Earth. Referring to the firm of Al Gore, all our politicians know the implications. We do this even till in our own gardens. In the reality, in every country, almost all trees in every garden are living less than 2 meters from the border of our neighbors. Almost none of these trees is causing any damage, like also in my own garden is clearly the case, while nuisance is a very broad and flexible term. When partial shade or a falling leaf in autumn can be considered as nuisance. And the existing legislation which implies a protection of our trees, like the law in our country which should protect all trees who are more than 30 years old, and all other similar laws which protect the trees in every other country on this planet Earth, should be very strictly respected and researched apart from subjective interpretations. This should lead to an effective protection of all tree individuals on this planet Earth.